housekeeping. Welcome to everyone that has joined us so far. This is the last Ed seminar of the day. You guys have virtually met Bob Graham. Bob is going to be talking to us about guiding your sales team during and after a crisis, which we've been in a crisis for the last 2 years, so this is very timely. I want to thank King City USA Northway Forwarding for sponsoring our Ed seminar today, and just thank you so much. You're a fantastic partner of ours, and we appreciate it. I spoke with Bob before we got on, and Bob welcomes your questions. I mean, he's made that abundantly clear. So ask your questions during his seminar, and we'll both be keeping a watch out for those. A little bit about Bob. Bob is CEO of Serious Soft Skills, LLC. And Bob has done a lot of stuff for us. He's held Ed seminars for us at convention. He is a contributor to Hardwood Matters. He's done one-on-one training with us here at NHLA, but he's delivered training and workshops and coaching on a variety of topics, including sales and marketing, leadership, teamwork, and soft skills. He was a professor, right, at Johns Hopkins University, yep. Bob?
Yes, sir.
A business speaker and trainer and coach, and he's helped thousands of people improve sales and productivity. So without further delay, I'm going to turn the screen now over to Mr. Bob Graham.
Thank you, John, for that marvelous introduction. And unusually, I usually have to write the introduction, and they always sound like I wrote them. That one I didn't write, and it sounds better than the ones I write. So
you're welcome to it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I hope there's a recording of this so I can capture it. I'm going to move to my slides so you can see them. And I do want to thank King City Forwarding USA for sponsoring this. Sponsors are a key to this. And by the way, I want to tell y'all, I have been going into the virtual exhibit booth and checking some stuff out. It's really great. I love the LinkedIn connections, and you can actually connect with them. If you haven't done that, let me give you a little plug for that. So let's get right to it. We're going to talk about guiding your sales team during and after a crisis. That's the name of the game here. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in. And John, I cannot see the questions when I'm doing my slides, so you may have to jump in if that's okay.
I've got you taken care of.
Thank you, sir. You're too good to me. So John gave you a little information about who I am. I'm the CEO. The name he gave you, Serious Soft Skills, we've changed the name of the company to Breakthrough Solutions. And I do coaching, training, and speaking on the power of people. My perspective is that the hidden part of success in almost every company right now and going forward is in its people. And people are underutilized, trained, underprepared for what they need to do. And that's part of why I got in the business I'm doing now, which is helping to coach and train and speak on these types of things. So one other thing about me, I'm a little different than most people. I was trained as a journalist. So my roots go back to asking questions and writing newspaper articles. And nowadays, that seems like a crazy thing. In the 80s, that seemed like a brilliant career move, but didn't quite work out the way I expected. I since then have done some marketing, and then I've also created 2 companies, a marketing company and the soft skills company. And I've also helped literally hundreds, probably by now, thousands of business people and businesses succeed and figure out some of their challenges. So what I bring to you today is a combination of what I know about your industry and what I'm seeing with other industries as well, because sales is sales no matter what. So let me start with a question for you. And that question is simply, how has the pandemic affected your ability to acquire prospects and clients? And if you want to put something in the chat, I just figured out how I could see that. Feel free to put how it's affected you. I will tell you, for me personally, for my business, it has actually made prospecting easier than it's ever been. And you may say, how is that possible? I will tell you, because CEOs and leaders in organizations are answering their phone in a way that they didn't in the past. I don't know if the office phone is being forwarded to their home and they can't see who it is, so they just pick it up. I don't know what the magic is, but I am having great success making calls. So at a time when lots of people have said to me, oh, I can't be making calls, this is a horrible time to be engaged with people, it is actually a really good time in that respect. I've got a couple of people saying they agree. Jeff says he stopped customer visitation. Yeah, that is a good point, Jeff. Yeah, we're doing more of these Zoom and Skype and WebEx and FaceTime. I've used them all. I am enthusiastic and optimistic that going forward, the amount of driving I will need to do is going to significantly decrease, and my success will not decrease. I'm able to talk to people now on Zoom in a way that I couldn't have even imagined a year ago. I can remember 6 months ago explaining Zoom to people. Now everyone knows Zoom. So at travel ban, Lou, yep, the travel ban certainly has made things a little more difficult, especially if you're trying to go internationally. That's quite a problem. So here are some of the answers I've been getting from people when I ask the question I just asked. How's it affected prospecting or getting clients? No one has money. They're too price sensitive. They don't understand my challenges. Someone just told me that yesterday. They said, these people don't understand that I've got to make a certain amount of money to make this worth my time. They want everything for the price of nothing. I think this is something that the hardwood industry has been battling for some years now, the ever shrinking price, and it just gets untenable at some point. And then the last one there, once things return to normal, sales will return. I'm going to tell you right now, the number one thing that I want you to take away from this presentation, there is not going to be a normal. We are not going back to the way it was 5-10 years ago. It's not going to happen. The world has changed profoundly. And some of those changes I'm going to talk about in a minute, because this is going to be the key to effectively guiding a sales team, whether it's you or your team, how you guide them by understanding what's going on behind the scenes, because people aren't talking about these things, but I am, because I want you to understand this, because this is what helps me be successful right now, is understanding what's going on in the minds of the people I'm dealing with. And Jeff added decreased selling expenses. Yes, that would certainly have an effect. So is what you answered to the last question really valid? Is what got in the way of your sales, what's getting in the way of your prospecting and you're getting clients, is it really valid? And I ask this of executives all the time, and they're like, oh, yeah. Well, I ask this because I got burned on this about 9-10 months ago. I had a business coach, and she said to me, so how are you going to find some new clients? And I said, well, I was going to go to some workshops, and some conferences, but it's December. No one's going to do business in December, so I'm just going to wait till January. And she said, have you looked for anything? And I said, no, there's not going to be anything. So she got onto Google while we were on the call and said, I found 5 things I just emailed to them. Sign up for all 5. I signed up for all 5, and I had some of the best success I've ever had. 2 of the events were actually in the week between Christmas and New Year's. And I was totally not expecting anyone to care. The place was packed, and the people were acting in a way that meant they wanted to do business. They knew where they were with their numbers. They knew that they needed to improve things, or they knew that they had some extra money, and they were totally engaged. So if you're thinking, the pandemic means I can't sell, the tariffs, geez, before that was the tariffs. What's it going to be next? It's probably going to be another travel ban, or it's going to be this. Those are excuses. Plain and simple, they're excuses. Because there are people selling right now. I know they are. They are selling in the hardwood lumber industry. And I just did a quick scan of a couple of headlines about the lumber industry, and Musser's Lumber. Do you know them, John? Does that name ring a bell?
I do know them.
Do you know what part of Virginia they're in? It says Wythe County, and I don't know where that is. I thought it might be southwestern. Does that sound right?
Dana Spencer, type in where they are.
Yeah, I did not get to look it up, but they are expanding their sawmill, And then a lumber company got acquired. Now, I will tell you, companies get acquired when there's a value to taking them. No one acquires a sinking ship. They acquire an opportunity. So the fact that these things are happening suggests to me, Rural Retreat, Virginia. Thank you. Thank you, Clayton. I appreciate that. The fact that these things are happening means that there's opportunity. So if you're telling yourself, there's no chance to sell right now, I'm going through the motions, but no one's going to buy from me. No one's going to buy from me. You are not guiding yourself. You are not guiding your team forward. There is opportunity. It may be harder to find, but it does exist. So what's going on in the world that we live in right now? Because we can't divorce what's going on in the world around us from the sales process. We have a lot of anxiety. We as human beings are struggling with this more than we ever have. We have fears about COVID. We have fears about the economy, about politics, about the future, about personal health, about ongoing changes, about being stuck with our kids, being stuck with your partner. I'm stuck at my house with my wife largely now. And if you had told me 6 months ago we were going to spend this much time together, I would have told you it would not work. But somehow we found a way. And all that is in the background. So when you're in a situation where you're talking to someone about sales, these things are real to them. Really real. And if you are just totally focused on selling and not paying attention to the cues that they're giving you about these things, you're not helping yourself. And I will give you an example from my own business life. I was in a situation where I was going to do a virtual sales call, and the person skipped it. And I had confirmed it the day before, and I'm like, I sent him a note that evening, like, hey, what's the deal? I thought you were going to be there at 9:00. You weren't there. You could have given me a heads up. I get an email 2 days later from his wife. He had COVID. He was in the hospital. I felt horrible. This is reality. People are dealing with their kids. They're dealing with homeschooling their kids. They're dealing with public schooling, but at home with their kids. There are a lot of factors at play right now. And we as people who do sales, and sales is really interacting with other people in successful ways, have to recognize this. You've got to allow for this. What now you see on this list, can't socialize? I will tell you, one of the things that you're going to find is people might socialize with you more. I've had some really long discussions with people in sales situations because they're alone and they just want someone to talk to. And I called them and they had time and they started talking. And you may say, well, I don't really have time for that. I've got to make 20 calls a day or 50 calls a day or 100 calls a day. But what I would tell you is, those people that you listen to are the people that will buy from you. I see it over and over. They're also the people that if you talk to them now and they go, I'm focused on COVID. I can't really buy anything right now from you. When you call them back in 2 months, if you remember details from that discussion you had with them, they're going to take your call. They're going to pay attention to you. I see it over and over and over. I've been making check-in calls since COVID started to all my clients, to all my prospects. I'm now on my third cycle through the list. I check in by email, I check in by text, I check in by phone, and I just, hey, John, how's it going? Haven't talked to you in a little while. What's going on? You got a conference coming up. What's the attendance look like? How can I support you? John and I have had that rapport now for what, a year, John?
Yeah,
John
actually a little bit longer than that. Sorry, I keep muting myself so I can make noise on this end.
Oh, that's fine. And John, the times that I've interacted with you, have you ever felt like I've been bothering you?
No, not at all.
Okay, and why is that, if I can ask?
Well, I would say because you asked permission to interact with me, it's up to me whether I do it or not.
I'd also like to think I provide value to you when we do interact, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put words in your mouth, but
no. And I was thinking back actually to our first interaction. It's not you're not forcing yourself to interact with me. It's hey, I would like to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And then that built the relationship, and to where I do know this is a help source that is trying to get a hold of me right now.
Correct. And I'm not going to waste your time. And in return for me, folks, if you're saying, well, what was in it for you? John, I don't think you've ever directly signed a check or paid me any money, but you paid me a huge value by the way you introduced me today. And you could not have done that if you didn't know me. Those words rang true because you know me, you've dealt with me, and you know the kind of person I am and what I can do. And that's a relationship that I built over the last year. And that's available to you. And again, John has not put any money in my pocket. I don't know if he ever will. Frankly, I don't care.
I don't really plan on it.
We'll see about that. But I'm about building relationships and helping people deal with this anxiety, taking it on, asking them how they're doing. If they have children, every single person I know right now who has children, hey, how's school going? Oh, it's horrible. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I come home from work at 4 o'clock. I got to be home early, and then I got to homeschool for 3 hours. You wouldn't believe. A guy was telling me yesterday, he's back to geometry. He's like, I avoided geometry when I was a kid, and now I've got to know it as an adult. This is the reality. We are like the kid in this image here up in the upper right with his arms out and in complete lack of control. We are going through a time where we have very little control. And all of us know the great deal of uncertainty and pressure that we're under. For many people, this is the first time in their life they've considered the possibility that they could die, especially millennials. COVID's been really tough on millennials. Not that they've died more than other people, but this is the first time someone said, hey, this could get serious. You could be on a ventilator. You could die. And they weren't prepared for that. That was not in their list of things to do in the next couple of years. They were moving along. Younger people have that issue. Older people are looking at that. And they're dealing with that reality that, boy, if I go out to dinner, I really want to go out to a birthday dinner. But if I go out to dinner, I run a risk here. And all this is influencing sales. I love Luke's comment. Did you see that, John? Pay the man.
I did see that. I've got a question for you because I was one of those people that had difficulty transitioning to this. Luckily, our boss, I called her about 2 days into the pandemic, and I said, I can't do this. I can't work from, the walk-in closet that I'm in right now. Can I come back into our empty office? So I was allowed to do that. Our group of people, everybody on this call today likes meeting in person, and they, for the most part, and they still feel so out of place. What advice could you give them for realizing that this may be the new way of doing business?
It's a great question, John. Beautiful question. So let me give you the tips that I give everyone when I talk to this. First of all, get a Zoom account. Get a Zoom account. It is so easy to use. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your computer, your iPad, whatever tablet. Doesn't matter what you use. You can use Zoom. And Zoom, it has become the industry standard right now. It's what people are used to. It's what they know how to use. So get Zoom. And then I try to do every meeting I possibly can with video. I am on my camera every day, all day. And that forces me, even though I'm home, I've got to put on a nice shirt today. I shaved yesterday, not today. I didn't wash my hair, but I did comb it this morning. That makes me feel like a business person. The other thing is, if you're looking at someone in the camera, it's harder for them to check out. Right now, the only person I've been able to see is John. I can't see all of your faces. I have no idea if you're checking your email, if you're trying to figure out your fantasy football team, or if you're trying to figure out why certain TV shows won the Emmys over the weekend. No idea, no clue. That makes it difficult. But when you have that video, there's an accountability. They also can see you. And I would actually tell you that once you get used to being on camera and seeing yourself on the screen, I find that video makes it much easier for me. I can record these meetings, which is really useful for some of my calls with people where it's like, hey, do you want me to record this and send it to you? Oh, that'd be awesome, Bob. I want to share it with these people. It also allows me to morph my background a little bit. I can choose a background that's more businessy, less businessy, depending on the situation. And the other great benefit is all I have to do is have a shirt on. I can wear shorts and flip-flops and no one's ever going to know. And for everyone who likes being in person for sales, I would ask you, how many more sales calls can you make over Zoom than driving from location to location? Because I live in Baltimore. When I was going to Washington, D.C. or Northern Virginia, it would be 2.5 hours each way sometimes. That's 5 hours to make an intro discussion meeting that might last a half hour with no prospect of money anytime soon. That's a bad equation. Now I would do that on Zoom in a half hour. They hop on at 9:30, we're done by 10. And one of the other hints I would tell you is keep to your time. If you schedule it for a half hour, keep it to a half hour. I never run late. I tell people at 5 till the hour, it's like, we scheduled this for an hour. We've only got about 4 more minutes left. Is there anything else I need to know before we close up? And if it ends early, even better. Does that help, John?
It definitely does. Does for me.
And if anyone wants, I can tell you the brand of a camera. Send me an email. I'll give you the easiest email in the world for me. It's B as in boy, G as in George, and then WRITER @gmail.com. If you send me an email that says video, I will send you the link to the camera that I got that sometimes is not always available because they run out. It's so good. And it costs $89. It plugs into my USB port and it does a great job. It has audio and it has video and it makes you look good.
Bob, give your email again. I'll put
it. I tell you what, I'm going to type in the comment myself.
There you
go. See, and this is one of the things. As you get better with the technology, you can do these things. You can just write them. I'm not sure. Did that go to everybody? I think so. Yeah, there it is. Okay.
To everyone.
Good. I'm trying to juggle a couple things and not doing as well as I had hoped. Okay. So I want to shift, and I don't know. I'm going to guess because of the age of a lot of the folks on this call, because you're not like in your 20s, I'm guessing. You've experienced grief and you've experienced the death of someone you know. It might be a parent, it might be another relative, it might be a friend. The reason I bring up the 5 stages of grief is because this is what people are going through. This is what the people you are trying to sell to are going through. And even though this looks like a circle with denial at the start, leading to anger, depression, bargaining, and then acceptance, we can go back and forth. You could be in acceptance. Well, this COVID thing, it's just the way it's going to be, and I'm okay with it. The new normal is kind of fun. I get to see my kids more. I get to see my grandchildren. I don't have to go to Louisville, which is kind of good and bad, but my golf game's kind of lousy, so it's better that I'm not there. And then it's like, well, and then 5 minutes later, you're angry. Oh, I wish I were in Louisville. Boy, I'd love to be at Louisville. This is great weather. I'd love to be at the golf tournament. I went through at least 4 of these stages in the last 24 hours related to the National Hardwood Lumber Association conference. I wanted to be in Louisville desperately for a million reasons. And I was angry about it yesterday. I was depressed about it last night. This morning I was bargaining. It's like, well, I can do the best job I can with this presentation. It's not going to be the same, but it'll work. And then I got to a place by about 2:00 today. It's like, you know what? I just got to accept this and do the best job I can in the situation I'm in. We go through this. You go through this with your children, with your grandchildren, with your spouse. This is a fairly common and accepted cycle that we go through. And I pointed out because you may interact with someone in a sales call situation where they are demonstrating anger, frustration, and irritation and anxiety about COVID, about your pricing, about tariffs, about politics, about the price of gasoline, about the fact that their kids don't do schoolwork. It can go on and on and on. This is something you have to understand, because if you can plug into which one of these phases someone is in, you can help them. If someone's in the avoidance issue and they're totally, the lumber industry is going to hell, it's going to be horrible, there's no hope. They're in the denial, anger phase, you're not going to be able to move them towards sales.
Hey, Bob, let me bounce something off of you. And this is where, this industry is in the midst of right now. Probably with tariffs, we've gotten to a resolution on that, at least for now. So let's call that acceptance.
Okay.
COVID, we're somewhere between depression and bargaining. But now with the election and everything coming up, a lot of people are at anger. What do you do when you're juggling multiple crises at one time?
In terms of a sales situation, what I try to figure out, I want to understand the person I'm talking to. So, John, if I'm trying to sell you something, I want to understand what's going on in your world as best I can. I don't care if it's gas prices. I don't care if you just crashed your car. I don't care if your kid's been hospitalized with COVID. I care in the sense that as a human, I care. But all those things are factors that influence you. And as we're going to see in a couple of minutes, there's a way to make this work to your benefit. So I'm going to keep going, John, and I think the answer is going to emerge. All right?
Great. Thank you.
Okay. So here's how we are as human beings. Okay. This is a fairly popular image. And you can see, if you look at this, there's a guy with a spear looking intently to the right. Something bad is going to happen. If you look at the woman to the left, you can see a small child holding on to her for dear life, and it looks like she is sheltering another child in her bosom. There's a man in the foreground to the left with a rock, down low, crouched down, and the other guy in the back by the cave looks like he's trying to figure out what to do, and the guy in the front right, or in back right, looks like he's ready to pounce. This is the reality of where we are as human beings whenever a threat comes to us. Any threat. If a bird hit my window, because I'm on my back porch right now, if a bird hits my window, I'm going to put my arms up and go, whoa! I want to know if it's a bird that hit the window or a gunshot. I don't know in the moment until I look up and see, oh, that's a bird. Okay. I don't have to worry about it. It hit the window. I'm going to have to clean up a bird probably. But if it were a gunshot, or if it were a piece of an airplane, or I don't know, a tree fell, those are all real threats. And we as humans are constantly assessing for threats. And when this happens inside, our sympathetic nervous system takes over. And we have the Red Bull feeling. We have that adrenaline rush. It's like you've had all the caffeine in the world you want. You know this feeling. If you thought you were going to crash your car and you didn't, that's the feeling you got. If you thought you were going to lose your job one day and somehow you survived it, when you were thinking you were going to lose your job, this is the feeling you had. Your heart rate rises, your body starts to use its energy reserves, and your limbic system takes over. And look what I put in bold there. Your thoughts become less logical and more emotional. This is any time a threat comes at us. We become less logical and more emotional. And most of sales is not about logic. It's about emotion. So if someone is feeling a threat, they are not going to respond to logic. It's just not going to work. And so if you're trying to deal with logic with someone when there's a threat, and that threat, this is the thing about the threat. The threat is what they feel is a threat. You may go, well, I'm pretty used to COVID. I don't care anymore. Okay, that's you. They may be very scared because they have a health issue. They have a relative who got sick. They went to their doctor and their doctor scared them. I don't know what, but it's real. But keep in mind when someone is having a stressful situation, so that's why if you've ever been in a situation where you delivered the wrong product or service to someone and they called to complain, they are not going to go through, okay, I did the order, I did it correctly, I paid you the money, you told me 2 weeks, it came wrong, I'm really disappointed. They're going to come at you with, I don't understand. What did you do? How hard is it to get my lumber to my yard? That's all I pay you to do. And you couldn't get that lumber there. What is wrong with you? That's emotion. There's no logic there. And when you apply logic to that situation, all you're going to do is upset them more. I coach a lot of people on customer service, on calls, on sales calls, and I tell them, if someone starts to go, just let them burn themselves out. I have one client who he puts the call on mute, listens to it, turns down the volume on his speakerphone, listens to it, and after about 4 minutes, the person chills out and he goes, okay, I hear what you're saying, so let's try to figure out the solution. And this can happen. I've had this happen in sales calls in the last couple months. Person was on a call with me. They stopped for a minute because they had an emergency call, and suddenly their child is in a school where there's COVID issues. They are immediately to emotion. So you've got to think about the person's emotions. We as humans have 4 choices. We can fight a threat. We can flee, hit the road, boom. Oh man, someone's throwing rocks at me. I'm running the other way. Fight would be, hey, someone's throwing rocks at me. I'm going to throw rocks back. We can freeze. Oh, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Do I run? Do I stay? Do I run? Do I stay? We become paralyzed. And in sales, it's analysis paralysis. Or we can face the situation. Hey, you know what? You messed up my order. Let's talk about the solution. I think we can probably figure out a way that makes it work for you and makes it work for me. How's that sound? Oh, that sounds great. This is what's going on, and this is what's going on inside of you. This is what's going on inside your sales team, your administrative staff, all of your clients, all of your prospects, and every other human being on the face of the earth every single day. There is always a choice. And you face that choice as well. When we go a little deeper into this, you can see if you fight, it's immediate action, win or lose, no options. When we flee, we live to fight another day, but we don't know what would have happened. When we freeze, we're the most vulnerable. The threat remains, which scares us. But when we face things, we evaluate and take the best course of action. And if you can help your customers go through this sequence, there's a price increase. Oh, I'm not going to buy from you anymore. That's too expensive. Okay, let me talk through. Jim, can we talk through this? Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, Bob. So Jim, let me get your feelings on this whole pricing thing. Why are you so upset about this increase? Well, you guys are making so much money, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Jim, what would you say if I told you that we're not making as much money as you think? That our fees have actually gone up because of a variety of things, from health insurance to the cost of doing business, to our liability insurance, to wages, all those things. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, what else, Jim? Well, I just think that you guys, I've been with you for 20 years. I feel like I should get a break. Okay, Jim, I understand that. Yeah, I've been with us for 20 years. That's really great, and I appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you've been with us for 20 years. But we've got to make enough money to be in business. You don't want me coming around in a month or two saying we're going out of business, do you? No. Oh, that'd be horrible. Okay, Jim. So you see the situation I'm in. We're doing the best we can on the price for you. but we don't have as much room as you think. Things have changed dramatically. I've had that discussion. I've counseled my clients on those types of discussions, and they are always, every time they'll say to me, it's not going to work. There's no way. No way at all. And every time it works. You face the situation, you evaluate it with them, and you take the best course of action. This is really key to understand. If you are near the chat box, do me a favor. If I'm making sense so far, give me a Y in the chat box so I know you're still here. All right. Jeff says yes. Beautiful. Okay. We're going to talk about some big changes. Okay. This is big changes. No other way to say it. I talked earlier. Thank you, Julia. Appreciate it. Greater access. I said earlier, leaders are answering their phones. Robert, Mark, John, Troy, Sean, Lisa, George, Steve, Matthew, I can't keep them all straight. That's great. Beautiful. Glad to hear we're making some progress because I miss being in the room with you all. It's so much more fun to do a presentation in the room with you all and then go to happy hour afterwards and people come up and say how great you are. I will miss that today. I'm actually planning to have a little celebration myself, and I've got some recorded voices that are going to say how great I am.
That's great. Hey, Luke Broger brought up something it's a real problem. Let me scroll back down to it. But Luke said depression is a big issue after more than 2 years of this business climate. So
yes. That is a concern, and I will tell you, I went to your conference last year. I was at your conference 2 years ago, and I would say depression, that is a good word to describe what I experienced. I think the way to combat that is to be eternally positive and optimistic. Good things are coming. In fact, at last year's conference, person I spent a little time with was complaining a bit about the industry to me. And I said, hey, it's cool to talk about it with me, but I would encourage you not to talk that way around the people that are at this conference. The people who are positive and upbeat are going to look a lot better off when things get better. We're looking for people that are optimistic. We all, doom and gloom. If I got on here and said, guys, here's how you guide sales. You're going to struggle for the next 2 years. Just accept reality, get over it, move on. I don't think I'm going to be asked to speak ever again to this group. First of all, I don't believe that. Second of all, it's not the right message. The message is there's opportunities. Things are not perfect, but this is the reality. I worked in the newspaper industry. The newspaper industry in the early 2000s was a mess. Every day I worried about the job that I had. But we got through and we started to realize that we could either be optimistic or negative about it, and we chose to be optimistic. Mark says we're all being negatively affected, no question. I would think that most of us have something to be thankful for. Focus on the good stuff. Mark, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's one of the things I have learned to do through the pandemic. I take about 5 minutes every day, usually in the evening before I go to bed, and I focus on 3 things that are great, that I am thankful for. It's my moment of gratitude. And often what I do the next day, if it's a person or someone's actions, I will follow up. So John, with his nice introduction, I will be so thankful tonight for that. I'll say a prayer for John, and I'll probably reach out to him tomorrow with an email and say, hey, that was really cool. I really appreciate you setting things up so well. I couldn't have been more honored or touched by what you said. And what I find for me is when I take some time to do something positive to help someone see how they've helped me, good things start to happen. It sparks opportunities. We can, there's a whole law of attraction. You can put negativity and scarcity into the world. Oh, no one's going to buy from me. Or I'm going to have the best sales year of my life. I'm going to rock it. I don't care about this pandemic. I'm going to find a way. That's what I did with my business. I was telling John before we started that, in the course of about 3-4 days, I lost 7 speaking opportunities, including the scaled back National Hardwood Lumber Association opportunity. And most of my clients disappeared because they didn't think they were going to be able to afford me because they weren't making money. So in the course of about 3 days, my whole business went right out the window. And there was a pandemic. So rather than cry, I did cry for a minute or two, I started a Facebook group for leaders to help them get through the pandemic and move beyond. I started a podcast, Facebook Live thing every morning on weekdays to help people through. And I've built a business around helping people figure out the pandemic. I took what could have been a horrible situation and created a possibility. And now it's paying off. I've had 3 of the last 4 months have been the best in my business career. In spite of a pandemic. In spite of a pandemic. And all I can say is, boy, when this pandemic's gone, whew, I'm going to be on fire. As Troy says, positivity breeds positivity. So let me keep going. Greater access. People are replying to emails faster. They're doing Zoom to feel face-to-face, and they're answering their phones. And if you haven't tried this, call people. Just call people and say, hey, just call and see how it's going. Steve, what's up? I met you at the conference 2 years ago. Haven't talked to you. Thought you might have caught my presentation yesterday. Your name popped into my head. I just want to see how things are going. And I'm doing a lot of interesting things. I thought there might be something I could do to help you, or you might have a question. And Steve says, oh, wow, that's really great. Even if I can't help him, Steve goes, wow, Bob's not being negative. And I talked a lot of salespeople off ledges in the first month or two. I was on a lot of networking calls, and there'd be a salesperson like, well, we're not selling it all. And I'd go afterwards, hey, can we talk? I'd get on the phone with them, and I'd explain to them, this is the time to sell. You need to get back on the phone and just call and talk to people. I did about 40 of those discussions, and about 10 of those people have since helped me find new opportunities. And when we did that call, that was just me being a nice guy. This might be a time for you to just check on your clients, your prospects, without a sales call, just a, hey, how's it going? I do a lot of not talking about what I do to people until they ask. I do a lot of just building my network. Because if I get to know enough people, good things start to happen. And I'm seeing that. The other thing that we're seeing with people is they have more distractions. So they're more accessible, but they're more distracted. Everyone is balancing work-life. Yesterday, my wife and I left in the middle of the day for an hour to go get a rug at Home Goods. It's the most indulgent thing I think I've done in probably 20 years. And today, I was out planting grass seed in the middle of the day because I had a half hour and I was a little nervous about this presentation. So I figured I'd just go outside, get some air, and do something. We're all balancing. But the balancing has an effect that people are also feeling like, yeah, I'm working at home a lot and I really own my company more. So they'll check their email at 9 p.m. and reply. They'll do work over the weekend. So the 9 to 5 is gone. With all the distractions, I'm seeing more and more that it's like 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. is work hours for a lot of people. So this next graphic here is, and it looks like it boxed out a little bit of the thing, but here's the way I visualize all this. We have our normal life and the routine issues, and we are always on a tightrope. You know, think about it. One thing goes wrong. Your health goes wrong. Your marriage goes wrong, or your significant other. Your kids get into some sort of trouble, or you lose your job, or your big sales contract doesn't go through. We are always, all of us, one step away from falling off that tightrope. Most of us did not realize that until about March. Now we all know that. We have all the normal routines of life that we have to manage, all the things that we have to do, plan for retirement, all that good stuff. But we also have the pandemic issues. Can I go to dinner with my family at a restaurant next week? Can we go to play golf? Can we do these things? What people are seeing from that is worry, sadness, wonder, excitement. They make rash decisions. The number of people who are sleepless, boy, that is something, when I ask people how they're doing, that comes up 2/3 of the time. I didn't get much sleep last night. Oh, really? What's going on? I just was thinking about the world. I gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I know for me, exercise, getting out in the sun, doing physical activity really helps me. You might give that a shot. Oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I haven't exercised in 2 months. That's the kind of discussion I'm having with people. And what's happening here is what we need to get through these difficult times is comfort and support. Comfort and support. Okay? How do you comfort someone? You don't tell them, hey, suck it up, man. So you didn't get some sleep. It's work time. Get over it. Hey, wow, that must stink. Geez, how are you handling that? The other thing is support. Hey, here's something that's worked for me. Or here's someone you might want to talk to. Or I'll say a prayer for you tonight and hope that you get to sleep. What that leads to, comfort and support, leads people to know, like, and trust you. And if you've read Bob Burg's great book, The Go-Giver, his whole thing is you buy from people you know, like, and trust. You have a unique opportunity right now to know people by doing these check-in calls and getting past the sales stuff, to know what their kids are up to, what they're up to, what their golf handicap is, what kind of car they like to drive. Do they have a boat? Where they go on summer vacation? Where they go on winter vacation? What they do for Christmas or Thanksgiving? If you pay attention to people and remember these things, they will start to know you. They will ask questions of you. John asked me when we got on the call today, John's first question to me, hey, so how are things going, Bob? And that wasn't like a throwaway, I don't care. That was, I genuinely want to know what's going on with you. And I think John would have been perfectly comfortable if I said, John, here's what I need. He'd have been like, all right, let me see if I can find someone who can help you with that. That's what we developed through this discussion. And ultimately, if they know you and they like you, they can begin to trust you. And when people trust you, that's when they buy from you. They don't buy from you because you have the best lumber or you have the best prices. They buy from you because they trust that you are going to deliver to them whatever goods or services you said you were going to deliver in the manner you were going to deliver them, in the time frame you were going to deliver them. That's key. That's why when we screw something up, which always happens, not always, but it happens, when we screw something up, the problem is the person can no longer trust you. You have to reestablish trust. My graphic here got a little messed up with my logo, but what it says is become their safety net. Think of people on a tightrope. What do they need? If I'm on a tightrope, I want to know that if I fall, I'm not going to hit the ground. I'm going to hit the nice nylon net and bounce around a little bit. Yeah, I used to go to circuses. You want to be that safety net. How are you that safety net? By asking them what's going on, by getting to the real stuff, by giving them the ability to tell you. Because if they tell you what's going on in their personal life, if they tell you the real stuff about work, believe me, the work stuff becomes a whole lot easier to get them to talk to you about. Sorry, I was trying to pause. I'm trying to pause more often, and it's so hard for me. So how should you approach? What actions should change in response to what's really going on? That's a great question, Bob. I'm going to give you a chance. Write in, if you'd like, why don't you write in your response? Based on what I've talked to you so far about, what would you change about how you go about sales, about how you help your sales team go about sales, and about your interactions with people? Just type in a phrase, whatever. I'd love to hear what you give you. I'd love to hear your suggestions, what you're getting from this. We have to give them a moment to type, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, I'll give you a quick example, and it's after you and I met here at the offices. Is now I try to, if I'm thinking of someone, whether it's business or personal, if I know somebody's going through a personal trial, instead of putting, trying to put good thoughts out there into the atmosphere, I pick up the phone and call them, talk to them about it, ask them how they're doing.
Awesome. Awesome, John. I bet it's made a difference, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
All right, we're getting some comments. Mark says, listen more, put ourselves in their shoes and understand. Beautiful. Jeff says, I love the thought that as salespeople, we are our customer's safety net. Copyright Bob Graham, 2020, all rights reserved. No, I'm kidding. Luke says, genuine interest. Yes, I was going to say, I didn't say this as well as I should. You have to have genuine interest. You can't do lip service. So tell me what's really going on. And they tell you, well, my wife's got COVID and she's in the hospital and I haven't seen her for a month. And you're like, okay, well, that must be really bad. So we've got this really good deal going on right now. That doesn't work. Steven says, check on people. Yes, you will be amazed. I am amazed at how much people are so excited to just talk to me. And sales come out of it. Lou says, ask your customer, is there anything I can do to better serve you in light of the current climate? That's a great question. And as more businesses really start to teeter on the edge of falling apart, that's a really important question to ask. It's also a really important question to ask because it may give you some information about where the company really is going forward, which would be good to know sooner rather than later. Richard says, smile and dial. Keep positive, keep reaching out. Love it. Beautiful. Julia says, focus more on the overall experience than a resulting sale. Yes, Julia, that is something that I had to learn. I do not track my sales. My success in the week, believe it or not, is built around at least 400 touches. A touch is an email, a touch is a phone call, a touch is a text message, a touch is a Zoom call. Right now, I see we have 77 people on this, so I got 77 golden touches right now because you're all hearing about me and what I do. You're learning from me. So I set the bar 400 touches minimum for the week. And when I hit 400, the sales follow every time. Last week, for a variety of reasons, I only had about 225 touches. And this week, sales were off. I can see the direct correlation. John says, high tech yet high touch. Yes, and it can be done. And if someone's reluctant to hop on a Zoom call with you, what I do is I say to them, hey, I'll tell you what, how'd you like to hop on a Zoom call and I'll show you how to use Zoom. I did that a number of times when this first began. In fact, when I talked to Renee Hornsby first about this conference, I offered to help them with the technology. I said, I've dealt with this for the last 6 months. I know it's new to you all. If you need my help, let me know. Melissa says, listen and help, don't talk and tell. Yes, listen and help, solve problems. Don't sell products or services. And Steve says, sales is a numbers game. Yep, don't I know it? You hit the numbers and numbers follow. I wish it were easier, but it's just not. So let's talk about the old world, which is on the left, and what I would call the new world, which is on the right. And I have a hunch that we are not going to go back to the old world. So let me go down the left-hand column because I know it's a little small and you might not be able to see it. First of all, you introduce yourself. You tell them what you sell. Let them know. You qualify them. Do you want what I have to sell? So I'm Bob. I sell widgets. Do you need widgets? No, we've got enough widgets. Okay, thanks. Bye. I'll call you back in a month. Let me know if it changes. Then you determine the order. Oh, you need widgets? How many? Oh, we'd like 2,000. Oh, okay. This is how much it's going to cost. This is when we'll ship them to you. You agree on that, and then you sign the deal. That's the old school. And that will work sometimes. It probably will work with people that you have a good relationship with going forward, although I'm finding not as much. The new way is what's on the right. You introduce yourself and you get to know them, really get to know them. Not like, oh yeah, he works at Anderson. No, he works at Anderson. He's been there about 6 years. His boss is encouraging him to get to take on more responsibility, but he's reluctant because he just had his third child, and his car's getting really old, and he's going to have to buy a new car in the next 6 months because it's just not going to make it any longer. And he's had this car since he was in high school, and it's an emotional trauma to him. As the person's talking, you'll start to hear what problems they have. If you ask good open-ended questions, so the question I ask every business owner, what's the biggest business challenge you face right now? If they say hiring the right people, my ears get a little pointed up like, hey, really, I can help you with that. If they talk about sales, I can do it. Communication, teamwork, leadership. Managers aren't doing their jobs. Our processes are screwed up. Those things, I'm like, boom, boom, boom. Oh, I got to keep talking. I don't stop them. And I don't try to solve their problem right away. I let them talk, and then I go back. It's like, earlier you were talking about the problems you have with hiring. What have you tried? Oh, we tried this. Oh, what's worked? Nothing. Oh, I have some ideas that I might be able to offer you that I've worked with other people on. Would you want to talk about that? At that point, they've sold themselves. I'm offering to solve their problem. I've listened. They understand that I care because I've listened. I've parroted back to them their problem in very similar language to their own. I give them hey, I can solve that for you. And then I try to get them to think about what would happen if that problem were solved. If you didn't have to interview 10 people, train 9 to get one person, what would that do for your company? If we could hire one person and they'd be the right person, that would be a game changer. I would that would save us thousands upon thousands of dollars. Okay, I think I can help you get there. Then they ask you, how would you do that? Well, when you talk high level, solve the problem. Then you talk about the terms, and then you sign the deal. And those of you who are selling a product are saying, well, that's different than services. I disagree. I've worked with companies of all kinds of sizes, all kinds of industries, and this works when it comes to product as well. Hey, so you're buying pressure-treated lumber. So you've been buying it for what now? Oh, 20 years. Wow. What's the biggest problem you've experienced that time? Oh, the deliveries, a whole bunch of it's bowed, or it's not dried, or it's, I'm getting out of my league, so I should probably stop there. It's not what they say. It's supposed to be grade this, but it turns out to be grade this. Okay. Take all that in. Just in your head. Don't even write it down. Just keep it in your head. And then come back later and go, I've been thinking about your situation. That's got to drive you crazy when the lumber is not the way you want it to be. I mean, pressure treated, we've been dealing with it. We don't get those kinds of complaints. And I tell you the reason we don't, because I've gone back and I've looked at the guys doing the work, and we QA everything. And here's the thing, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to have that problem with me. And if you do, here's my cell phone number. You call me day or night, I'm coming out and I will solve that problem for you in the moment. That will not be your problem. That will be my problem. That's what you can do. When you can understand what the person's problem is, you can solve it. And so often, and I'm seeing this more and more, people tell you what their problem is when they first start talking to you. I was out looking for a car the other day, and the salesman said, "So have you bought cars from salesmen?" "Yeah, 5 or 6 times." "Do you like the process?" "I take it or leave it." And he said, "Well, what's the biggest headache?" I said, "The biggest headache is they don't tell me the price until they go talk to the manager and go through all the gymnastics. And then they put on shit paper and they slide it across the table like it's some big contract. I just want you to tell me a price, and then we agree or not agree, and we move forward." He's like, "Okay, tell you what. How about you tell me what number you want to spend, and I'll tell you if we have a car that matches." I was like, "Okay, that works." So I gave him the number. He's like, "You can write it down or you can tell me." I'm like, "I'm going to tell you. There's no one around." I tell him the number. He goes, "Okay, this car, this car, this car, and I've got about 20 online that we can look at." I was like, okay. So he totally eliminated my problem. My problem was the number was going to change. And my other problem was I expect him to say, "Well, how much are you going to trade in? What's your deposit going to be?" Because they all, there's that numbers game that they play. He eliminated that. So now he and I are talking. He got my phone number. He got my cell phone number. He's texted me. He called me with an update on some new cars that came in and said, "I want you to be the first to know. If there's one that you want me to put aside for you to try, I'll make sure no one else goes in, because now when you want to drive a car, they have to sanitize it. I'll get ready for you if you can tell me when you're coming." He's solving my problems. I told him I'm really busy. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I know what I want. I need someone to just make the pieces fit together and make it happen. I told him, like, right out of the gate, that's what I wanted. And he has responded. When was the last time you asked one of your customers, how could we do things better? Or where are we dropping the ball? Most of us don't want to hear the stuff that needs to improve. We're just crossing our fingers that they never realize that we're not as good as we think we are. What I find is when I ask my customers, "What can I do to make things better for you?" they tell me, and I can usually help them. Or my network, I have someone who can help them. John knows a million people. I would in a heartbeat call. If someone said I needed something, I'd be like, "John knows a million people. I bet he could help me with this." I call John. John helps me. I help John's friend, and everyone wins in the deal. We are in a world now where it's about solving problems. So I said earlier, you want to become the safety net? Here's the new approach. Listen more. Give them a place to share. Consider skipping all sales talk until it feels right or until they ask you. And they will ask you. If you listen to them about what they're doing and what's going on, you go, "Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I've heard that from some other people. Yeah, my company's tackled that problem." They will ask you. Guaranteed. And when they ask you, "Tell me about how you solve that problem. Tell me about your company. Tell me about you." When they ask you, now you've got the stage. They can't stop you. They asked for it. It's different than you got on the phone and go, "Hi, I'm Bob. I'm selling lumber. We've got a really great deal today. Do you want lumber?" No. It's a yes, no there. You want to start that longer discussion. Next, you've got to create safety. Some people are going to talk for 3 minutes. Some people are going to talk for 3 hours. You can't rush them. You can't judge them. And above all else, do not minimize what they say. One guy told me, for my biggest problem right now is I cannot get my pencils to sharpen enough that I can actually get the fine point I need to do what I'm doing. And my thought was, really? This is your biggest problem? That's not what I said. I said, "Wow, that must really stink. How are you dealing with that?" It's like, I bought like 5 different sharpeners. I was like, I have a sharpener in my basement that my grandmother had. It's not doing anything for me. Would an old sharpener be good? And he was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome. You can't buy them." I'm like, how How about if I ship my grandmother's to you? He got it. Couldn't have been happier. Another person I was talking to told me they loved Old Bay seasoning, which is a seasoning they put on crabs, and some people put on French fries, broccoli, vegetables, and salads. It's a Baltimore thing. I live in Baltimore. This guy's like, oh, you're in Baltimore. You must love Old Bay. I said, yeah, it's really good. Why? Oh, I had it one time. I've never been able to find it. I shipped him a big container of Old Bay. He went through all kinds of gymnastics. He worked for a government, and he wanted me to coach him. And he went through all kinds of gymnastics for me to be able to coach him, because I sent him Old Bay, because that was his problem that day. Oh, I love that taste. I can't get to Baltimore. How hard was it? It cost me $9 plus $3 to ship it. So I paid, $12? That contract probably netted me $7,000, $8,000 so far. That's a pretty good investment. Always be a person. Being a salesperson is not what people want right now. They want a person. You can't feel safe with a salesperson. You feel safe with the just, good friend who listens and cares. It really will work. And then people want to solve problems. We all feel so vulnerable, and little things become big things in our heads, and big things become bigger things in our head. So solving problems is critical. Understand that they're vulnerable, and don't take advantage of it. I think some of the sales stuff 20, 30, 50 years ago was, hey, if they're vulnerable, take advantage of them. That will not fly these days. That's the salesperson, and that's not going to work. To take advantage of this, make more check-in calls. Be more intentional, be intent when you're listening, and follow up and document what you hear. If you're talking to stuff about your personal stuff, they're talking about personal stuff, make sure you remember it. Nothing's more embarrassing than someone tells you about their child who went through really bad surgery, and you call them 2 months later and go, yeah, so weren't you the one who had the kid who was sick? That's not helping. That's going to get you a closed door. So this is my favorite part. I'm a firm believer in takeaways and commitments. Takeaways are the things you learned from what I shared with you. They can be insights, aha moments. And commitments, I like commitments. I like to hear from people who are willing to try something new, something different. And by sharing it with the group, you become accountable to me and to the group, that if you put it out into the universe that you're going to try something new, the odds of you doing it go up dramatically if you share it out loud rather than just keep it in your head. So feel free to write in the comments the takeaways, your commitments. You can also, if you have questions, I would love to take your questions. How am I doing, John? Have I put you to sleep yet?
No, not at all. I mean, probably my biggest takeaway came in the last 5 minutes, and that's not diminishing other people's opinion, other people's thoughts, what they're going through, because by nature I'm a debater, and especially in something like COVID, that is a touchy situation. If you take the more cavalier side, or if you're on the more cautious side, that can cause debate. So that's one thing I try to pay attention to. So great takeaway for me there. And Bob Pope likes Old Bay seasoning.
Okay, great. Do you know where Bob Pope is? What part of the world, John?
Yeah, Bob is in North Carolina.
Okay,
right,
he's probably struggling to get some Old Bay. So you know what, Bob? If you send me your address, I'll mail you a thing of Old Bay. How's that? You can't beat that deal today. Kelly says, effort in relationship building never fails. It all boils down to these two core principles: effort and relationship. Yes. Melissa says, always put kindness first. Oh, Bob says Vermont. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be even harder to find Old Bay.
And he's probably right. I said North Carolina, but Bob's probably right on where he's
I'm going to guess Bob knows where he is. Lou says, setting a goal of touches per week. Great stuff. Thanks, Lou. Yeah. So, Lou, tell me what that touch per week number for you is. Let's get some accountability rocking here. I told you mine was 400. Some weeks I get up near 500 touches. And for me, a touch is anytime someone gets to see me or what I do. So if they talk to me on the phone, that's one touch. This group, we had 77, so that's 77 touches today. Patricia says, remembering that everyone is feeling vulnerable and to respect it, become a safety net for them. Beautiful, Patricia. Perfect. I love that you adopted that language. Small customer base, Lou, 75. I love it. All right. I'm gonna find a way to check on you, Lou. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll reach out in a week and see how you're doing. And we'll see. Maybe we'll keep each other accountable. And by the way, folks, you can see that I am doing what I've been saying in this hour and some odd minutes in sending a person Old Bay because you mentioned Old Bay, in trying to help Lou become accountable. That's how you build relationships. I don't build a relationship if I just go, yeah, that's great, Lou. Oh, you like Old Bay seasoning, whatever. Bob and I, if I send Bob the Old Bay, I can follow up a couple weeks later and go, hey, did you get the Old Bay? How's it going? What's your biggest business challenge? Blah, blah, blah. Who knows? He might know someone who can use my help. He might need my help. For all I know, he's on the board of some organization that needs a speaker. I have no idea. I don't worry about that. I worry about getting the touches and being a person first, helping people solve the challenges they face, and good things follow that. Do we have any questions? I can't be that good, John. You think?
You might be.
There's my contact info if you want it. I'm a big LinkedIn person. And if you or someone on your team is looking for some motivation, inspiration, there's a Facebook group I talked about earlier that I put together. It's totally free. It's called the Ring of Renegades. If you're on Facebook, just type in Ring of Renegades in the search bar. Go and join that group. And you will find people who are dealing with all these issues every day and finding ways to be successful.
I want to remind everybody, Jeff Werkele made a comment, great information to pass on to his sales team. This presentation and all of our presentations will be available on NHLA.com next week. So feel free, get this, replay it, play it for your employees, send it to your friends, anybody that can benefit from this. Please pass that along.
Steve says, concept when it comes to accountability for sales. I'm not sure. John, got some interpretation on that for me?
I don't. I'm looking.
I think he's asking me what, I'm going to answer a question I think might be embedded in that. How do the concept of accountability? I'm a firm believer that it's not about the number of sales I make each week, because that works itself out. It's about the touches. It's about being this person who cares about other people, and then the sales follow. And that has really worked for me in almost every day. Oh, great question, Troy. Would you consider social media as a touch? Great question. I would tell you, Troy, social media is a touch for me if I have a private discussion with someone. So if I post a LinkedIn article and someone responds to the article in the comments, and I connect with that person and say, hey, I really appreciate that you checked out my article. I love your comment. That would be a touch. But otherwise, with social media, we have no idea how many people really pay attention. So I want to make sure that I'm getting to a specific person. And I do respond to everyone who responds to anything I write on LinkedIn. Same thing on Facebook, same thing on Twitter. And those tools are starting to become more effective.
Well, Bob.
Renee had a great insight. I love that phrase. Social media is a drive-by and wave, not a touch point. Thank you, Renee. That's beautifully said. I'm open to any other questions. Thank you, Rob. That's great to hear.
Well, Bob
Thank you,
Graham,
Ben. Yep.
I was going to say thank you so much for this. I think it was invaluable. I think it will be very valuable to our members. So thank you again for being here. Look forward to seeing more contributions to Hardwood Matters, and hopefully see you in person very soon.
I love it. Thank you again to King City Forwarding USA Incorporated for sponsoring this. It was great that they made this available to so many people so easily.
Thank you for that plug for them as well. We really appreciate that. As you guys know, this is the last event of the day. Hope you're planning on joining us tomorrow. You do not want to miss Dan North, the economist that we're going to have kicking off the day tomorrow. And I just want to thank you for taking part in this. Hope everybody has a good evening.
Thank you. Be well.
Thanks, Bob.
Sure.